A few days ago, I finally sold the worst flip car I ever had. This is the first car I ever bought with the intentions of fixing and selling right away. This is why I probably made a lot of mistakes, so I figured I'd share them with you and hopefully give you a good insight on what it's like to flip cars, what to do, what not to do, and I'll definitely go over the things that I did wrong. I did all of the work on this car before I decided to start a YouTube channel, so I don't have any footage of that, unfortunately, so I'm gonna try and make this quick and just briefly talk about what mistakes I made. So this is a 2008 B7 Audi S4 convertible. It was an automatic, it had relatively low miles at 88, and I bought it off of Copart. Because I'm just a regular person without a dealer's license, I'm not able to buy Copart cars from Illinois auctions. There's very few states that allow that, one of which was Colorado, and this car did have a salvage title. So because the auction is in Colorado, I'm in Illinois, I had to pay for shipping. So that was mistake number one. I spent over, I think, $1,000 on getting the car delivered to me. At the time, I had thought that there's still a lot of profit margin for this car and I will eventually be able to make up for the money I had spent on shipping. Boy, was I wrong. So as you can see, the damages on the car weren't absolutely terrible. There was one issue that I wish I had considered previously. Once again, it was just a lack of experience, and that was the airbag on the passenger side. Because of the location of these airbags, obviously, whenever it explodes, it destroys the dash, and I didn't really think about it at that time. I thought, I'll just mold it together, it won't be too bad, which is exactly what I did. Obviously, people don't really like the look of that, and this is gonna turn away plenty of potential buyers. Yes, I could have replaced the dash, but that was just ridiculous amount of work, and I still didn't think that I would be able to improve the value enough. Probably stay away from cars that have an exploded passenger side airbag. So there's quite many parts that I had to replace on this car. Here's the list. Some of the most expensive ones were the core support. Unfortunately, they're really hard to find. For some reason, it is really hard to find aftermarket radiator supports for the S4. I don't know, maybe you guys have been able to find them. I couldn't, so I ended up having to buy them brand new OEM. It's a pretty penny. It cost $750 to buy the radiator support, and I'm assuming a huge portion of that is shipping. Plenty of other parts I was able to find used from junkyards. They were, up to $200, $300 range. Another big cost was replacing the windshield and painting the hood and fender. I paid the shop to do that because this is a relatively valuable car. I didn't want to just spray paint them, which I have done with cheaper cars. I'm currently in the process of doing that to the B5A4 that you've seen in the last few videos. I will have a video of that soon, but obviously with this car, it is just a little too nice to spray paint with the rattle cans in my driveway. Not the optimal idea. So altogether, I'd spent just a little over $3,600 on parts, which isn't too bad. The car itself, by the way, had cost me $2,600. That was the bid. And then I paid $1,800 for Copart fees and shipping together, which is a lot. I wish I could have found this sort of car on private sale, but it is what it is. You can't do much about it. Another big cost was $500 for getting the rebuild title for it. Unfortunately, the process in Illinois is a little complicated. You have to have a licensed rebuilder sign off on some papers for you before you're able to get the rebuild title. So before I even purchased this car, for some reason I thought that I would be able to sell it for around $12,000. I thought that would be a pretty solid price point for one of these cars, and that's where I was wrong. This is probably what went really wrong with this flip car, is that I just misjudged its value. For some reason, when I was thinking what I would be able to sell it for, I wasn't really thinking about the fact that it'll have a rebuild title. I simply looked up the same model and basically looked at what they usually sell for. And there's a very small amount of them being sold. And I was like, wow, it's a pretty rare car, so it'll probably sell for more than I expect. My silly optimism just kicked in, and I couldn't be further from the truth. I've had this car for over 2 years. I had it fixed for, a year and a half, just sitting in my driveway, waiting to be sold. I kept trying to relist it. I kept dropping the price. I started around $11,000 or $12,000, and I don't think I got a single message about it. I didn't even have these guys right there. Is this still available? Yes. Hello? So there was very, very little interest in this car at that price point. So I figured, I just gotta keep dropping the price until somebody finds it a good deal and decides to buy it. Fast forward months later, I finally sold it for $7,500. Just a reminder, when I was going into this, I was expecting to sell it for $4,500 less than what I expected to get out of it. Altogether, with all of my costs, I had spent just over $8,000 on it. So I lost about $600. Even when I had it listed for $7,500, I wasn't getting much interest about it. I maybe had one or two messages. I had one guy who offered me $2,000. I blocked him immediately. And then the other guy who actually ended up buying it, he showed up, drove it, said he liked it, and he took it within 20 minutes. So here's what I did wrong. I bought from Copart, where there's a lot of fees involved. I bought from a Copart that is really far away, so I had to pay $1,000 for shipping. It's still possible to make profit when you do those two things. Obviously, there's a lot of people buying from Copart. There's a lot of people buying from Coparts far away and getting their cars delivered. You can still make profit. You just need to be more careful with what cars you choose, and that is my mistake number 3. I chose a car that was not very desirable. Yes, it is rare, but it is rare for a reason. And that reason is that Audi, back in the day when they made this car, they knew that there's not going to be a lot of people buying them. So they produced a pretty limited amount of them. The problem with this car was that it was a V8, which is kind of a good thing. But see, the thing is that people who want a V8, they want a performance car. This car isn't really an enthusiast car. It has good power, 340 horsepower, but it is an automatic. So the enthusiasts kind of drop off because they would be more interested in manual cars. People who would be interested in automatic cars, they want gas efficiency. This car doesn't have that. At best, it'll get like 15 miles per gallon. So those people drop off. All that's left is people who don't know a lot about cars, but want something kind of cool, kind of fast, but not really. They want an automatic because they can't drive manual. And they want something reliable, which this car isn't really. It's the 4.2 Audi V8 that is known for having timing chain issues, which are known to fail around 100,000 miles, maybe a little less. And this car was just coming up on that period where timing chains can become an issue. I couldn't notice anything wrong with the timing chains. There was zero rattle. It sounded like a very healthy motor, but people still turn away from it because they're afraid of the timing chains to go out. So there you go. We drop off reliability. There's just very, very little people interested in buying this car or just in having this car in general because it doesn't check many boxes for most people. My mistake number 4 was overestimating how much I can sell the car for. Whenever you're trying to think how much the car can sell for, keep in mind the title situation. If you're buying a salvage car, this should be a no-brainer, but that's something I just misjudged when I was young and dumb and inexperienced with flipping cars. I was relatively experienced with building cars, but not flipping them. I was thinking, what is this car worth to me? As an Audi enthusiast, as someone who thinks that this convertible is pretty cool. On top of that, many enthusiasts and people who just appreciate cars for their looks don't really find convertibles attractive. They do have kind of a sort of weird body line, and it's understandable. I never owned a convertible myself, except for this one, which I never drove. So when I was thinking back to what would I pay for it, I was thinking $12,000. Well, whenever you have that thought, take that and probably subtract about 20%, maybe even 30%. Especially if you're buying a car that you think is cool, you're going to be very biased. And that's what I was. I'm a huge Audi guy. I love S4s. I have multiple S4s of different generations myself that I'm a huge fan of. Seeing this convertible, I thought, wow, this is amazing. It's got a V8, it's got all-wheel drive. What else could you want? And it's a convertible top. That makes it fun in the summer. The all-wheel drive makes it fun in the winter. Conclusion, I lost $600 on car, not to mention the amount of time I spent on it, which was quite a bit. Hopefully you learned something from this video and it will help you out if you're just getting started with car flipping. Don't listen to your heart, try and listen to your brain. Don't buy cars that you think are cool. Do your research, look through forums, see what cars people like, what cars people don't like, and try to stay away from rare cars. Unless it's something really cool that definitely has a huge fan base behind it. Obviously, in this case, that was not it.